Lise Lopez, 15 ans, 1m60. Va falloir que tu t'accroches. Personne va te faire de cadeaux ici.
You want to take advantage because you think I've lost my marbles. But I didn't!
Pourquoi on se sert pas de la mouche, là, pour se faire de l'oseille? Bon, on l'adresse comme un singe. On peut l'envoyer, tu vois, dans une banque pour nous ramener le pognon de la banque. Et nous, on fait rien.
Hello and welcome to this week's film show where we are ever closer to the opening of movie theatres here in France. Film critic Lisa Nesselson joins me to point out what we should be planning to see. Hi Lisa, I'll be coming back to you in just a moment, but first let's take a look at what's at stake as cinemas welcome back the general public with health and safety measures in place, of course. With a backlog of more than 400 films, some movie makers fear their features could slip under the radar. Emrod Maxwell reports.
The date is proudly posted on cinemas all over France, the 19th of May. French audiences can't wait for it.
The smell of popcorn, the smell of sweets, the whole cinema atmosphere.
Watching a film on the big screen will make a nice change from our rooms or our homes.
I can't wait for the James Bond film. I also can't wait for some of the films that only came out for a short time before lockdown.
I'll be there from the 19th, and I hope it's not just me.
And they'll be spoilt for choice. Over 40 films will be released, some of which only made it to screens for a couple of days in October before lockdown shuttered cinemas. This distributor predicts that some films won't stand a chance in these conditions. He's been busy reprinting the movie posters.
The film was meant to be released on December 16th, and it's finally coming out on May 19th. It won't be easy because we have a backlog of 465 films. It'll be difficult to make sure they all do well.
With such a big backlog, the number of releases per week could increase to 25 instead of the usual 10. It's a real headache for PR teams.
Do you think that the article will be able to come out at roughly the planned time? Just because 25 films are coming out at the same time, it doesn't mean that the amount of press coverage about them is going to be multiplied by 25.
When projectors begin beaming again, some films may end up overlooked, but industry professionals say they've been patient long enough.
We're all fed up, both us and the audiences, so we're ready to reopen under any condition. Our longing is stronger than any constraints.
The reopening of cinemas still hinges on the evolution of the epidemic, and with a maximum audience capacity of 35%.
So as we saw there, Lisa, 450, that is a lot of films. In your opinion, why so many?
Well, for one thing, because very few French distributors resigned themselves to selling their films to a streaming platform. They held out for the big screen experience, and they didn't know how long this would last when they started. It was mostly American studios that opted to put their big movies on little screens. And France still offers a range of movies, from blockbuster extravaganzas to two people talking in a room by a Romanian or Korean director, say. And every week of the year brings several restored vintage films. We're about to revel next week in Godard's Breathless and the still terrifying British classic, The Wicker Man. And there will be paying customers for those two films from the 1960s, as surely as there will be paying customers for 007 and Top Gun when the waters part. And there they are at last.
Now, in that report, we saw a distributor printing posters for the third time as the release of Slalom, a new film, was thwarted by COVID-19 twice in 2020. So is this film worth the wait?
Absolutely. This is a very impressive first film that takes us inside an unhealthy and unbalanced relationship from which the concept of consent is absent, that nonetheless leads to extraordinary athletic achievement and personal growth. Fred, a ski coach who with his live-in girlfriend runs a tough residential program for promising teen athletes that combines schoolwork with rigorous training on the slopes, not only sees a talented diamond in the rough in 15-year-old Liz Lopez, he also sees a vicarious chance to get back at the merciless system that rejected him once he was injured and could no longer ski well enough to represent France in top competitions. Should a man in his 40s be involved with a 15-year-old girl for whom he's an authority figure? Absolutely not. However, wanting to please her coach is the best possible technique to spur Liz on to outdo herself under competitive pressure on the slopes. Jeremy Renier as Fred and Noe Habitat as Liz are incredibly good at portraying an unsettling range of always believable emotions.
Yes, Noe Habitat definitely marking herself out there as a promising young talent. Well, let's take a look at slalom.
Hé, tu te relèves, on dirait une gamine là.
Bon alors comment ça se passe l'entraînement? C'est la chouchoute alors bon. Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Si c'était Fred, tu dirais quoi?
Tu vois pas qu'il nous regarde là? Je parlais à quelqu'un.
Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Tu sais de quoi je parle?
Now, director Charlène Favier is a former athlete who started working on this screenplay long before the Me Too and news of French scandals in French athletics made the headlines. This does look like quite an impressive coming-of-age tale, and it's also quite topical.
Indeed, this is a very French movie in all the best ways. Most reviews in the English-speaking world refer to Fred as a predator. That, in my opinion, is to miss the point and apply tunnel vision, or rather tunnel disapproval, to a far subtler sequence of events. Fred gives a lyrical speech about menstruation that will have male viewers wishing they, too, got their periods. The film excels at depicting physical sensations, be they between two people or between Liz and a ski slope. In a French movie, your ski coach rolls you a cigarette. And of course, a minor can enter any pharmacy, request the morning after pill, and receive it for free in a matter of minutes. This film could also have been called Out of the Frying Pan and Into the Fire. The words, "What do you think you're doing?" and "No" are spoken just twice. The script, which acknowledges that there's such a thing as the insistence of unplanned bursts of sexual desire, is very deft on when to say nothing, when to speak up, and when to lie. In this film, nothing is cut and dried on the emotional front, and that's what renders the story anything but mundane.
Okay, that's definitely going on my list of one to watch then. Next, versatile, multilingual actor Viggo Mortensen has made his directing debut with the film Falling, and he's in his early 60s. This is not always an easy transition, that one where actors go behind the camera, but Mortensen is quite the polymath, isn't he?
You can say that again. He's been acting on film since 1985. He's an actor, author, musician, photographer, poet, painter, and now film director. And he also wrote the screenplay to Falling, and it's a narratively ambitious and adamantly inclusive and diverse undertaking. Mortensen co-stars as John Peterson, a gay man whose husband Eric is of Asian heritage. Their daughter is of Hispanic heritage. And John's proud, ornery, homophobic, and bottomlessly judgmental father, Willis, is sliding deeper into Alzheimer's disease every day. John and his dad do not get along. Flashbacks gradually reveal why. But John believes the time has come for his father to move off his farm and come to Los Angeles to be near his adult son, who is struggling to be patient in the face of residual animosity and the ravages of dementia.
Okay, well, let's take a look at Falling.
Does that rivet you have stuck in your face bother you?
It's called a piercing, and no, it doesn't bother me.
Is it a dumbass fashion thing or a dyke thing?
Grandpa, why do you always have to start trouble when we get together?
Did they know you were a fag in the army?
I didn't really know it myself.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Looks like a goddamn girl. Getting a haircut today, mister.
I really don't need your help. Stop trying to run the show.
Now, there is a debate about whether only gay actors should play gay roles, but here there's a heterosexual actor who's written himself a homosexual character, and it works very well.
It does indeed, and that's in part because he's written a very layered and admirable character for himself to play. So I imagine he'll be forgiven on that front. But he is working from firsthand experience when it comes to interacting with loved ones coping with dementia. From what I've read, both of his parents, 3 of his 4 grandparents, and several aunts, uncles, and his stepfather have battled the disease. Mortensen cared for his own father in the last year of his life before his death from dementia. I like this movie very much, and while it's a serious film, I especially like that David Cronenberg, who has directed Mortensen in 3 terrific movies, has a cameo here, billed as a proctologist #1.
Interesting. Now, continuing in an irreverent vein, this next French film was supposed to come out on December 31st last year, but since it involves an unusual insect, perhaps summer is a better time to create some buzz around this one. Tell us more about The Mandibles.
A new film from gifted iconoclast Quentin Dupieux is always a cause for celebration. His previous movie was Deerskin, in which Jean Dujardin formed a very special relationship with a suede jacket. There's a non-standard relationship at the heart of this film, too, a pair of ridiculously laid-back slacker buddies accept a well-paid assignment to deliver a car to a specific location. In the trunk, instead of a spare tire, they find an enormous fly. Since these lovable losers work really hard at trying to devise ways not to work at all, naturally they reach the conclusion that this fly is a potential gold mine and a labor-saving device. All they have to do is train it to do their bidding, and what could be so difficult about that? Dupieux is an absolute master of funny narrative byways that seem to have been cooked up by the 13th monkey in that famous collection of 12 monkeys typing away and eventually hitting on literary treasure. The entire cast is deadpan delightful. If your favorite thing is predictable movies with standard plots, this isn't for you. If you think unfettered creativity is cause for celebration, don't hesitate to see Mandibles.
Thank you very much for the heads up, Lisa, and thank you for that roundup of those films. We'll leave you with a glimpse of this memorably strange comedy. Do remember our website. We're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.
Ce soir, j'ai préparé des paupiètes de dinde.
Elle a eu un choc au cerveau après un accident de ski. Depuis, elle parle comme ça, quoi.
Bon appétit à tous. Mais c'est vous dans cette chambre enfermée comme ça?
Je sais pas, rien.
Hey, tu regardes pas mes poitrines?
Dont tu rêves, hein.
Y a un truc qui craque, les 2 gars là. Ça craque à mort.
C'est quand même fou cette histoire, non? C'est le monde qui est détraqué, quoi. Les gens pètent les plombs. Ouais, ça craint à mort, là.
C'était quoi ce gros machin?
Une mouche.
Une mouche?
Ouais.